Thank you very much all for coming and joining us on this moment. So I'm sure you have seen the brands that we had showcased earlier. These are the brands that we have with us. BYLD is the group. We take pride in sharing that we are the Build Your Leadership Differentiators organization. The brands that we represent are one of the foremost authorities in content in the world. You will find that in this part of the hemisphere, we are the largest group in South Asian region. We offer value-added services in HR, leadership development, business operations, manpower staffing, technology, executive coaching, and organizational development. The group was started by Mr. Yogesh Sood, who happens to be the CMD of our organization, and Mr. Sandeep Budhiraja, who was the founding partner. The senior leadership team includes Mr. Nishit Sood, Mr. Anand Diwan, Mr. Amar Vijay Tandur, and Mr. Ronald Soames. A few more facts which lay credence to our credibility. So these are the core leadership offerings that we have. You will find, on the extreme left, you have building trust. Moving up, you have coaching essentials and optimal motivation. Now, these are the programs which are they are hierarchy neutral, so they can be delivered at any level of hierarchy in leadership chain. Second is they deliver the value that they represent here in their name. Now, these programs they represent the value that they share with you. Also, you will find that there are programs beginning with self leadership, then first time managers, the SL2 experience, the team leadership. uh, there's a very important book written by a person who's considered an authority in leadership in the world, Mr. Ramcharan, or Professor Ramcharan, as he is better known. Now, he has written a book called The Leadership Pipeline, which is considered a fable on how to develop the capability, bench strength, and the how to enhance the current capacity of the leaders in your organization. So our programs are mapped to his leadership pipeline. Self leadership, first time manager, SL2, self leadership, while it addresses the needs for individual contributors. First time manager addresses the need for people who have become people managers for the first time or they are fairly new. SL2 experience is meant for the tenured managers. It's the world's most taught leadership and people development program. Next to that is team leadership, a program which is very, very intact in right. So, team leadership is a program which is meant for managers of managers, people who are managing people who manage the teams. This is why it is. Leading people through change is a program which is very intact, very thorough, deep diving program about how to create the infrastructure of change in your organization before you introduce the change itself. And I'm sure a lot of us will agree that the biggest challenge with change is not the change how it is to be planned. However, it is the change how it is executed. So this program helps you create the infrastructure which is more conducive to that change that you wish to introduce. Legendary service, not a run by a mill customer service program, a very, very thought provoking, introspective session on how do you want people to feel about having a conversation with you? How would you leave them thinking and feeling about the experience of talking to you or coming in contact with you with respect to your specific need of customer centricity. Care is the model that we teach here. Moving on, these are the support programs that we have. These are essentially half a day modules. However, few programs like Leadership Point of View are a keynote address, which is ideally delivered with by people with a lot of credibility and with a lot of seniority under their belt. So they would take this program to the senior most people in your organization and assist them to share with their A team, the directors and the likes, about what is their idea of leadership and how they want to take ahead the journey with these people and the organization. Before we move ahead, I just wanted to administer a poll. We are going to ask you a question. It will appear on your screen. Uh, I will request you if you could please answer the question, and the question would just appear on your screens. So once we get a clear snapshot of everyone having captured their response to the question, we will publish the poll results as well. It's a 50-50 result that we have got, wherein we have got 50% of the population saying that they face no challenge. Possibly they are not facing apparent challenges yet. And there's 50% of audience which says that they face challenge in uh, managing people virtually. Now, this is precisely what we are here to discuss. Blanchard has a very intact program called Leading Virtual Teams. Now, this is a very comprehensive module, and this shares in great detail what are those Blanchard programs which, when come together, create a program which addresses the need of managing people virtually. Okay? So, I'm putting everyone on mute, please. Thank you very much. So the learning outcomes of this program would be identify the specific challenges and advantages of working in virtual teams, build trust, identify characteristics of high performing teams, use tools to evaluate virtual teams, orient new virtual teams effectively, so on and so forth. These are few of those examples of challenges that you may or may not encounter depending upon how robust is your mechanism and how long have you been managing people virtually. So you will be more adept at managing the challenges because you will be aware of them. Now, these are few interactive icons that when you deliver virtual meetings and when you manage virtual teams, these are few interactive icons which you generally use. There's a chat box in which you respond to questions, prompts. There's also a poll that we ran and you were able to share your feedback on that. There are check marks which are available which you can mark. So these are few tools that you use, few icons that you use while you're delivering or while you're conducting virtual meetings, and they come in very handy. So there's also a possibility of breakout rooms if at all that is something which is a need. Now you will find that these are few instructions or these are few norms that we set at the beginning of any session. You all need to remove distractions because this is a specific program which is going to run for a very short time. You will see that it brings a lot of value and it also informs you appropriately of what the needs of virtual teams are. Participate and be prepared to be called on. So there's every possibility that I may call on your name and ask you a certain question about what we are discussing here. Keep the conversations confidential. Of course, I think we all need to agree that we all need to keep the conversations confidential. Whatever we discuss here stays here, and keep the accent on the positive. What our request would be is, please ensure that everyone is respected and every viewpoint is respected. Thank you. Now, before moving to the next slide, if I may run another poll and ask you a question, how many of you think that trust becomes a very important factor in virtual team management? If you could please give your response to that. Wonderful. So, how do you think it becomes a very important factor? As people are working remotely, it becomes a very important factor. Okay, there's no team without trust. Owning responsibilities, oh, that's a good way of tackling trust. So, to answer your question more appropriately, there is a program called Building Trust that Blanchard has. It's a very well researched module. It's also a part of the core programs that I had shown that you. It was the first program that I discussed with you. So, what we have done is we have factored this program in this delivery, and what we say is that in team dynamics, it's very different when it's in the virtual teams. The dynamics are very different. Yeah, and the conflict tends to go underground. Do you agree that the skills that are needed to lead teams virtually are also relatively different? I think they are. I think they are. And the things become more complex than we realize that they are. So here it becomes very important that we have some format, some construct of a program which addresses it completely. So this is the trust model. We say that it begins with ABCD. A says able. The first is that you should be, as a leader, you should be able to demonstrate competence. Then only in a relationship you can build in trust. So a simple example is, let's say I have a 7-year-old daughter, and the task that I have at hand is that I have to pull up something very heavy on the first floor. How many of you think that she'll be able to help me pull up 25 kgs worth of groceries to the first floor? She's 7 years old. She has the right attitude, she has the right intent, she is really glued into me, she loves me, she wants to take that up to the first floor. But I think possibly she has never demonstrated competence. Will she even be in the consideration set? So, Mr. Khan, I would like to believe that she can. But I think most of us would not keep her in the first reference set because it's really difficult for a 7-year-old. Correct. So correct task for the correct caliber of people. I agree. She will not be able to. Second is believability. You act with integrity. Are you speaking behind the back with about other people with others while you're not sharing the same challenge with them? Is it that you're hiding the facts? Is it that you're not operating with transparency? So quite a lot of acts which convey believability. C is connectedness, that you care about others. If you care about others, people can sense that, and if you don't care about them, they can sense that as well. So, and the last and very important is dependability. How often do you honor your commitments? I can assure you, you may be best friends with few people because they're good at they crack a lot of jokes. They're good at engaging people at some level. However, whenever it is something as simple as managing the birthday party of your son or daughter, you will always and always look up to those people who have been responsible in their behavior. They may not be the people that you everything depends on the past relationship and engagements with your team and others. Oh, absolutely, I agree. And these are all the four very important tenets of how do you hold your team together. You will find that they have been very thoroughly researched, and there's great bit of research which suggests that if you're not able to demonstrate competence, there's every possibility that you're not even in the reference set. Believability talks of do you always act with integrity? If I keep, you know, few examples, there are few people who would keep making fun of people and they think that they're liked, and on occasions they are liked too. But if someone reaches them and says that, you know, this is something that this person said about you, and if in the past they have said something similar about others to you, there's every bit of believability in that. You can believe them not to act with integrity as well. So that's very important. Connected, you can't stay connected unless you're authentic about your feeling of care about them, which is true. And dependable, honest commitment. So moving ahead, the session 2 of this program discusses what do great virtual teams do. So what do you mind comes when someone asks you what do great virtual teams do? If someone were to ask you what do people do great when they're flying in gas balloons, the balloons that are filled with gas, there are times in tourism you'll find a lot of people in Greece and Australia enjoy that. So when that happens, what do you think, you know, if someone were to ask you what do people do who are managing this business well, the first reference set is you would want to understand from them. Yeah. And you would want to keep the objective clear. Yes, absolutely, you would want to do that. So in this program, we ask each team member, you know, you work with the team, not inform them only. So what you do is you create a template wherein you say there's team 1, 2, 3, 4. Share 5 key success factors. In your opinion, there are 5 virtual teams operating and seemingly very successful at their job. What is it that they're doing that's making them successful in your perception? What do you think it is? In this activity, you then bring back few factors which everyone agrees with. Then you try to ask them what you think few of such factors are. Then you collaboratively create a template of what is it that these teams do that makes them different and very successful. Prepared well, have an agenda, they keep the objective clear, better sync. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's a very good input. Thank you very much. So I welcome you all to please put in your comments. Coaching the teams, Commitment towards work, proper planning, strategic focus, communication, all very good ideas. Communication is such an important factor. Trust building, yes, absolutely. Reliability, great, wonderful, wonderful. So, moving ahead, once we have created this snapshot, then we come to a very important factor, which also contributes heavily to the team and its charter, and that is it's very important for us to realize and keep our eyes open, because especially we are working in a virtual environment. It's very important for us that even in the iceberg model, we say that we see or hear only 20-22% of the actual truth. Rest of the 78% is below the surface. In a virtual team, that reduces even further. So you have to be extra sensitive to what you see and hear in the virtual teams. How many of you agree with that? Just put in your response in the chat, please. How many of you agree that, you know, when you do not have a face to face connect, when you're not meeting on a daily basis, it becomes even more important that you sense what is it that people are saying and what is it that you're hearing. Wonderful, almost everyone has completely agreed with it. Great, great. So when that happens, you have to be extra sensitive to what you see or hear. Now what it says is, what we do notice face to face, that might go unnoticed in a virtual environment. Now there are certain factors which we will be able to notice face to face, which have the possibility of going unnoticed in the virtual environment. And this is precisely what I was talking about. So you have to be very careful of what you see or hear in a virtual environment. A slight hint of disengagement needs instant reaction. Absolutely correct, Rajni. Instant reaction. Sometimes we need to use videos to understand the person. That's absolutely correct, Satish. And yet there are times that we manage to miss a few points here and there. So it becomes very important for us to be able to do that. Next is, they say, what might be under the surface that we don't see or hear in our virtual teams, which is usually true in your other interactions as well. You know, you will find that this is true in your other interactions as well. There's a lot that your team would choose not to share, and that completely depends upon the kind of trust that you managed to build within your team, and also the kind of connect that you feel with them. Very good, very good. You need to listen to the tone of the voice. That's a very important point. Yes, absolutely agree. So moving ahead, we come to the third section. How do I structure a team for performance and engagement? In the workshop, this is the third session. Of the 6 sessions that we have, this is the third session. Let's see how we address that. So first is that we use a validated assessment, which is perform. This 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 specific assessment checks the individuals and the overall team's characteristics on these very important 7 factors, which we have researched and found to be very important, or the determining factor in making a team a high performing team or not. So these are very important factors in making people engaged, keeping them engaged. What is the purpose and values? How empowerment flows? How empowered do people feel in the team, and how much empowerment is provided to them? The relationships and communication. What is the quality of relationships, and how good is the communication flow? How flexible is the organization, and how flexible do people feel? Uh, they are made to feel about the work that they do. Optimal productivity, there's another assessment which says, no, here we check what is optimal productivity of these people, and how optimally are they operating, how many of them. Recognition and appreciation, do you feel recognized and appreciated for the work that you do? And that's very important. So to answer your question, Mahua, We can give you the reference of research. Yes, it's a validated assessment. Sample size of the research we will share with you. Though the number of participants for Blanchard run into several hundred of thousands every year, we'll be very happy to provide this detail to you. You please reach out to the person, the BD who reached out to you, and he or she will be able to provide this detail to you. We have that as a ready reference. Thank you very much for asking. This is a very important question. Next, very important, all of these factors coming together impact or constitute the morale of a team. Now, when we talk of morale of the team, we then come to realize that this is how you want to check the stages of development of a team. The team starts at the orientation stage. Just a second, I'm just stopping the video share for everyone. Thank you very much. Now, you will find that when a team begins operations, when it's fairly new, when the task which has been assigned to them is fairly new, they're in the orientation stage. It doesn't mean that everyone in the team will be in the orientation stage. Few could be at the production stage or integration, few could be tenured. But if it's fairly new people who have come in, or if it's a fairly new task which has been assigned to you, people begin in the orientation stage as a team. So your understanding and productivity of that task would be relatively low. However, your morale will be very high because it's because of some reason. It's because of your past performance, because that it has been passed on to you. Then when you attempt the information which has been passed on to you about this task, etc., when you attempt that, there are times that not everyone is successful. There are chances that you will miss delivering on that task completely and always. So there's a stage of dissatisfaction, and the morale of the team dips a little. The line that you see right in the middle is the productivity. Now, this is where you become productive in the real sense. So you'll find that in integration stage, where both the morale, where the support is provided by the leader, and some information about this task and job is provided, then slowly and gradually you improve both the productivity, and the morale also starts to pick up. Yeah. When you move ahead to production stage, this is where you have now become accustomed to doing this job. You are fairly good at it. So moving ahead, when we reach the production stage, this is where we either continue. This production stage could be fairly long if it's an ongoing project or ongoing work, or a new technology which was introduced, but it has now become a part of your work. So it may be fairly long, the curve. However, whenever it terminates, it comes to a certain level of termination also. There are times the projects get terminated too. So it terminates at a high, and if at all a new task or a new information is given to you, you again begin with the orientation stage. So these are classical stages of development for a team. Now, the perform assessment that we had taken and the results that we got thereafter help you design a team's charter. A team's charter would be, what is the view of this team? What does this team stand for? What are the norms of the team? So what are the few aspects which are very important, which form a team charter? The step one is the purpose. This perform assessment helps you draft a statement of roles on the team, who will do what, and an identification of resource gaps also. What all needs to be done, who will do what, and where are the resource gaps. This assessment will help you do that. The step two is the who of it, the project plan, identifying key deliverables, milestones, critical dependencies. So these are few factors that in the step two, we teach you how to address this. So through the use of perform assessments and its output, we'll assist you in this workshop in the process of devising or designing your team charter. Yeah. The next is team agrees on a shared purpose statement, and that's the how part of it, which is step three. The step four is what? A list of ways of working in order for us to accomplish the goal. So the norms, how do we work together? There's certain realization because we've been working together for some time. So you would have come to realize a few things as well. So this is where you move to the session four. In session four, before we move ahead, I just wanted to run a small poll. I think few of you would be thinking that we are talking of the models and we are talking of the learnings, but there are no tools that we have shared with you yet. So if you could run that poll and ask you to, answer, how many of you think that we have not yet shared any good tools with you, and you're looking for that? So we will end the poll. We've got about 229 positive responses. 14 people say that they do not really look for any new tools. Possibly they found value in the tools that we shared earlier, or few models as well. So thank you very much for that response. So with this specific aspect, the first big tool that you will share with you, which addresses the need, how do you communicate and collaborate virtually? This becomes a very important aspect, and there are very few tools out there. Now this is one tool which says, how do you check the virtual climate for an individual who's working in your team? You will find few aspects of it which, if answered appropriately, do you think this will help you get more traction in your team meetings, set up your team meetings, manage timelines? So I agree if the tools are accurate. The name of the tool, it's the virtual climate tool. And just for everyone's consumption, there are about 25 tools in our toolkit, which we deliver to people who attend this workshop with us. This is just one of them. There are 25 such tools, such intact, very useful and very, very handy tools. Yes. So it tells you what is the climate of that individual in terms of office space, what is it that he's using, the equipment which is available to him or her, the best time or way to reach that individual. Now, this becomes very helpful. If you think, you have such data for 18 to 20 people whom you are managing, you very clearly know how and when to hold a meeting, which will be very effective. And if one or two have to modulate their time, then that's absolutely all right. You can't address all, but you'll be able to address majority. Great. And in privacy, can others hear your phone calls? Can others see your computer screen? Can others see your work? So you also check about the privacy. It almost gives you a clear snapshot of what is the climate and environment this person is operating in. How many of you would agree that conflict is even more difficult to manage in virtual teams? Wonderful. Great. So I think conflict, yes, almost all of us agree that conflict is a very important factor these days, and especially when the teams are operating virtually. There are things that are said, there are emails which are sent. The biggest challenge is people try to read a tone in the emails as well. And whenever you're not speaking face to face, you just say, okay, I'll just check with the person. That is considered an informal way of checking. But if you write an email, it looks more like you're stamping your authority either, or you're bringing some facts to everyone's notice. Yes, Deepak, we agree. This could not have taken place without Zoom. So perfect. Thank you very much for that example. So, there are certain aspects to virtual teams. One is they are less hierarchical. Yeah. Uh, Second is there are fewer automatic social norms. So what do we mean by automatic social norms? You're sitting together, you just say, it's all right, so don't worry about it. If you find something written on an email, it is not very common that you just shrug off a matter. You think that whatever has been written has been documented actually. So everything comes with a great bit of seriousness. Everything becomes more severe and seemingly more damaging than a verbal remark, possibly. So there are challenges which surface more quickly and they become deepened more quickly too. And it's very difficult for these matters to then surface again. If you have not handled it immediately, then they just keep simmering in the undersurface. And that is a big challenge. People withdraw, and it is very difficult for you to engage people virtually then, because you're managing them virtually. So it's a very, very important factor, and it's very important to know how to manage conflicts on virtual teams. So now we talk of session 5. Of course, when we bring forth the challenge and conflict, in virtual teams. I can assure you there are tools and there are methodologies, as Blanchard is a highly researched organization and we know what we're talking about and what we share with you. So we will ensure to pass on enough tools and capability to you to ensure that you're able to handle conflict. Moving on, we move to session number 5. Now, in this session, we discuss how do I lead effective virtual meetings. So, how do you think, you know, what would be the important factors of holding virtual meetings which are very effective? A very important factor here is, I'll put all of you on mute, please. Slow me a little time. Thank you very much. We'll be happy to capture your thoughts in the chat box. You should communicate your needs very clearly. Yes, absolutely correct. So we believe at Blanchard, there are two, three things. Requirements are shared properly. The structure, yes. Any more thoughts? You can unmute yourself and speak if you want to. If you want to share it with all, that's absolutely all right. You can please unmute yourself and share with us. Engage team with content, expectations. Be precise. The timing, by timing, I believe you're suggesting being punctual. Good or appropriate communication, yes. How to manage your behavior. Clarify the expectations, give deadlines, manage agendas, purpose of the meeting should be clear. Yes, wonderful. So all great ideas. Now in this, what Blanchard believes is there are three aspects to any good virtual meeting. One is the quality of content. Second is the robustness of its process. And the third is how involving and coherent is the climate of the meeting. I believe you will recall that in the beginning of the session, we had said that you have to be positively inclined towards the discussion. So, how do you hold each other's opinions respectfully? How do you allow others as well to share their opinions and respect that there could be difference in the opinion, yet you value that they care to share? So, both the quality of content, the robustness of process, and the coherence of the climate go hand in hand in creating the basis of a very good or well managed meeting. Now, I'm sure a lot of us would have read about job variety. Same is the nature of a virtual meeting. There are times, and I'm sure all of you would agree, it is very possible that your virtual meetings that you're conducting become very boring and mundane. Is that or is that not? How many of you think that it's very easy for meetings, and if especially when they are conducted regularly, they can become mundane and boring?
Very much mundane and boring.
Very much. I could so hear that there are some boring meetings that you've been a part of. So that's correct. Right. So almost everyone has openly agreed that it's sometimes, not always. Yes, Krati, we're not saying that all your meetings are boring. I'm sure the ones that you're conducting are not at all. So I agree there with you. It depends on the content and speaker or organizer. Yes, absolutely. I agree there, Deepak. It depends a great deal on that as well. Depends on the culture observed. Right, right. Wonderful, wonderful. So when all of us agree that it's possible, if not always, then on occasions it's possible for our meetings to turn mundane and boring. There's a very good method of managing the mundaneness, or become, you know, how do you prevent your meetings from becoming stale? So what you can do is you can rotate the roles. There are certain roles that you will find here, and I can assure you they are very different roles. The leader is the person who's leading the meeting. Facilitator is the person who is facilitating the entire process, the technology part of it and the other part of it. Record or timekeeper, who is managing the process of completing the meeting in time. Gatekeeper, the person who is managing who joins the meeting, who does not, and ensures that there's a waiting room, as you will experience here in this session as well. There are people who are participant observers, because these are very important observers. We had discussed, I'm sure you will recall, we had discussed that you have to be very very observant about what is the mood of the session and how are people behaving, acting, reacting to new ideas or whatever it is that you're sharing. So you have to be very very, you have to be on your toes and sitting on the edge of your seat, to so to speak. And the presenter, if at all there's some idea or there's some discussion going on, who's the presenter. What we have found is there's a uh, great bit of semblance that you can bring in, and engagement, if you keep revolving these roles and keep rotating the meeting roles in your meetings. I'm sure if I were to ask you if you have ever led a meeting, how many of these roles, we have shown you 6 roles, how many of these roles, or 5 roles, how many of these roles have you played in that meeting? Just write in the chat box, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5, 4, all of them, 4, 5. Right. So, wow. So you will find that most of the responses are tilted towards, if not 5, then very close to 5, which is a huge task. Now, when you take the responsibility of all the roles upon yourself, then it is very difficult for you to be able to deliver quality in all aspects of those 5 roles. Is it correct? Am I correct in my assumption that if you take on too much to manage, let's say I was managing this facilitation of this session, while I was managing to answer all the chat questions which were coming through, and I also wanted to manage the entire technology piece of it, and muting all or looking at if the videos are open, managing the annotations, sharing the polls. Do you think I would have done a very good job at it, or I could have done as efficient a job as you have experienced here in this meeting? Absolutely, Prince. It's very difficult, man. It's very, very difficult. Yes. When we try to juggle, we tend to drop a few. A very good point, Indu. So while Indu is assisting us a great deal in answering the questions in the chat box, she is also sharing those pearls of wisdom with us. Thank you very much, Indu, for that. So when we all realize that it's very difficult for us to be managing all the roles, do you understand what happens to people who are not really that well engaged in the discussions? If you were not getting such prompt rewards in the chat, if you were not getting the polls at the right time, if you were not getting all the rewards from me, and if I were not completely involved in only trying to engross you in the presentation, if 3 4 of us were not working together, would the experience be similar? It would not be. It cannot be. Yes, I agree, the experience cannot be. Now imagine the challenge of people who are sitting in the meeting experiencing the experience all the time with no role to play, especially in a team meeting, because I would like to believe for a team which is operating virtually, at least in a day you would be connecting twice, if not more. Even if you're connecting once for about 1 hour, I think that becomes such a mundane activity for all of us. So what's an important aspect here in engaging such teams is keep rotating the roles in your meetings. How you do that, how you prime people up, how you keep shuffling or juggling the responsibilities between them, and yet you always assign just one person one task so that you can hold the person accountable. There are certain very very deeply thought, researched, practiced, assessed and experienced facts and aspects to it, which we'll share in great detail in this training with people, and they'll find such meaning in these sessions that they'll go back very rich. So moving ahead, this is an observation sheet. Now, what is the purpose of this observation sheet? After every meeting, this is a sort of, this is almost a feedback form of all the people who attended the meeting. Now, if you were to take a closer look at this, don't you think it is so comprehensive if a person were to look at this sheet and observe the responses? Look at what it's asking. Did the meeting start on time? So all the qualitative aspects have been tabulated here, and what we are asking everyone to share with us so that we can capture in greater detail is how was their experience in that. The positives are yes, of course not so good experiences are no, and even if it's a yes, what needs to work better, what needs work, what all do we need to work on. Now, if you were to deploy this observation sheet with your team after every meeting, if you could write in the feedback form, how good or how appropriately prepared do you think you would be for the next meeting, irrespective of the response that you get? Am I audible?
Yep.
Yeah.
So much
Yeah.
structured, yes, wonderful.
Yeah, sure.
Great. So, do you think if you had a view of such intact data after each meeting, do you think this will come in handy? This will help you prepare so well for the next aspect or the next meeting that you think you'll be way ahead, and this will bring a lot of structure to your next meetings. Absolutely, absolutely. It'll be a great feedback on voids. I completely agree, Kavya. So once we are clear of how to hold very effective meetings, what do you think could be the next aspect? The next aspect is, or the last session that we deliver here is, how do I build team spirit? So if I were to ask you all, I'm sure you will agree, but let's just see what's your thought on that. If I were to ask you all, even if you were to wake up an L&D professional in the middle of his sleep and ask him or her, what do you think is the prime challenge that you face in any organization, irrespective of industry, irrespective of size, uh, geographical location? I can tell you it would either be how to build collaboration, or second could be how to engage employees. Collaboration and engagement is something that you can just write on the top of any meeting diary, and I can assure you at some point or the other it will come across as one of the needs in any organization. Yeah. Oh yes, Pooja, absolutely. I know. We've experienced it so much. What we fail to understand is that disengaged employees, disengagement is just a symptom. If you do not want to go to a party, if you do not want to go to a social gathering, it is not because of few people whom you're not yet even aware if they'll be there or not. It's not because of those few people. It's just because that you're disengaged from that event. Yes, you cannot always attribute it to the driver or the car or the people whom I'm going along with. This is a symbol of attrition. That's very correct. It's an evergreen challenge. I completely agree, Pooja. That's a very noble way of putting it. It's an evergreen challenge. So disengagement is just a symptom. What is leading to that is usually leadership, the way people are engaging people. Because you may fight with the people within a family, you may have a fight with the sibling, but how it gets addressed by your parents is something that has a bigger impact on it, on your overall experience. So even if irrespective of the result of a fight that you had among the siblings or among your friends, etc., how it ended for each one of you, and how people who are considered with authority, who have some more who are more senile, seemingly so, and presumably so, when you take the matter to them, how they address it has a major impact than the actual events. Yes or no? Do you all agree with that? Great, great. Yes, absolutely. Wonderful. So this is precisely what we are looking to address in this aspect, in this session. So we look to address how to address the team's spirit and how to build it. We have a very deeply researched program, Optimal Motivation. I had spoken about it in the core slides as well. We draw these values from there, and we say, through our research and through validation, we know that it's either autonomy or relatedness or competence that a person needs in a relationship to stay optimally motivated. Each aspect, how do you judge that? What will make the person feel good about it? And how does a leader address it? We'll get detailed, we'll get discussed in great detail here. In this program, in this aspect, in this session, we will give our specific notes. We'll give our specific strategies on making or building highly motivated and engaged teams. And this aspect gets covered in such detail that people feel, by giving specific roles and rotate, yes, absolutely, ownership and motivation. So this is what it addresses. Solution which is not making problems more worse. Absolutely correct. However, there are times, as we had shared earlier in session 3, to develop high performing virtual teams, it's very important for you to keep sensing what the team is sensing, because the matters surface very quick, and if not addressed immediately, they become underground simmering challenges very soon. And it's very difficult then for you to, when once people have withdrawn, it's very difficult for you to engage them. It takes a lot of effort, especially in a virtual team, because most of the aspects of your communication are through body language, which is grossly missing here in your connect. So that becomes, you need to listen beyond words. Oh yes, absolutely, I could not have agreed more with you, Prince. Absolutely correct. So having addressed it through this model, what we then say is, what are the few best practices that we share? The few best practices that we share are: pay attention to individual needs for autonomy, relatedness, and competence. Every individual has this need, irrespective of whatever diversity that you experience. These are common, and this is researched. Help team members connect to a greater meaning or purpose, as we had discussed in perform scale, if you remember. Share leadership in the team. Share leadership in your team. In virtual connects, you should over communicate, is how we put it. On creating virtual water cooler, oh yes, absolutely, I'll come to that. That's usually a poll question, but you've now managed to ask the question, so I think one is an opportunity loss for me. I would not be able to hold that poll now, because now I'm duty bound to answer that question, because it's been asked by a lot. So pay attention to cultural differences, celebrate individual and team successes. So would someone like to take a dig at it? What do you think is a virtual water cooler? And then I'll just answer that in a minute. If someone wants to answer that in the chat, or if someone wants to unmute and contribute, I'll be happy to allow that opportunity to anyone. What do you think is a virtual water cooler? Keep the team cool by motivating
I
and
think providing maybe a comfortable situation, or maybe a comfortable environment when there are different cultural people are there. So that's one thing which I can think of.
Great thought, Pragya. Great thought. You're very close to that. You've almost nailed it. So when you say that, giving people an opportunity to be comfortable and in different cultural environment, multicultural environment, making it comfortable for them. So that could be an analogy for water cooler. Yes, it could be. Would someone else like to take a dig at it before I take that?
Creating a platform so that they can have a gossip or chit chat. It can be related to work or not.
Yes, Manu, thank you very much for sharing that. Yes, you're absolutely correct. So to answer the question for everyone, uh, a virtual water cooler is, something that you would experience in the Western world. You will say that it's a coffee machine discussion. You'll find that on a photocopier, usually people bump into each other for a casual conversation, which may or may not be related to work, not necessarily work, just to chit chat, share a few points of concerns or whatever, discuss something about their homes or their experiences that they're experiencing these days. So it could be a multitude of lot of discussions that you want to hold. Uh, So in India, because we experience more hot days than and dry days and monsoons than actual winters, so we say that it's more appropriate to call it a virtual water cooler where people go and meet with each other and discuss some pleasantries and certain not so significant discussions. Just a place where you can discuss a few things, and it's a great way of unwinding. There are times that in our offices, I'm sure you would have similar experiences, we will find that people moving to the pantry almost at a similar time and going there and waiting for 4 or 5 minutes and taking their fill of the you know taking their fill of the tea or a coffee and waiting their turn happily while discussing a few things. So this is precisely that. This is absolutely that. So kudos to you, Pragya and Manu. You were very very close, and Manu, you almost answered it completely. So thank you very much, you all, for that. So these are few aspects, as we discussed, which help you, in developing very very good connected virtual teams. Any questions that you have, I'll be happy to take them now.
Rajul, I just had a quick question. I had sent it in chat, but then I guess it got missed out.
Yes, please.
I'm not sure whether this would be a part of it, but then I read one of the pointers was regarding engagement. So
Yes, please.
can you give some ideas or some tips as in how to keep the team engaged, formally or informally, as in with regards to the work or maybe off the work? Do you have any ideas to some quick
See,
ideas?
though the entire program is talking of how to keep people engaged, so engagement is just a symptom, as I shared with you. Where is it that we are missing in leadership and engaging them is something that is a matter of query for all of us. So your context could be very different. It could be as simple as the person facing some challenges in personal life to something that we are doing right now. So we are not very sure if we'll be able to give a definitive answer to that. However, I think it'll be great if we could discuss separately. I would like to understand a little better before I really give you a clear assessment or idea of how I would like to respond to that. And I can assure you, it may be seemingly a simple question or a simple answer, but at times there's a lot under the surface than we can see that apparently. So a lot of methodologies with which you can look to address it, but almost everything impacts the engagement only. People withdraw when they feel things are not going their way. Now their way could be their own assessment or assumption of how things should be. It could be anything between utopia or something as simple as my manager does not hear me. So it's very difficult to answer that with authority, but I think with some perspective we can definitely answer that.
Yeah.
Raju, just I want to ask you one thing that currently the media and the newspaper, they are talking about the Zoom. They are selling the database. The customer database to hackers. So
Right.
is it possible for you to conduct this the learning session in a different platform?
Yes, we are also considering that. I completely agree with the point that you brought forth. So we have discussed with our service provider. We are contemplating switching from this to possibly Microsoft Teams, or let's see which platform we move to. We are also contemplating that. Though we have been assured of the security templates being put on, the new plugins being put on, but we are also contemplating that. So that's a fair point.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Sure, thank you very much. So thank you very much all. If there are no further questions, then we would like to call it a day.
You're awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
Raju.
Thank you very much, Joseph.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
God bless you and stay
Really
safe and
nice
healthy,
training.
Raju.
Sure,
Nice
please.
session. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will definitely attend the next session.
God bless you guys. Take care and stay home and safe.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Raju.
Thank you very
Same
much.
here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Pleasure.
much.
Bye-bye. Bye.